This is Europe's wake-up call. This is a suggestion via a channel member. Let's go and jump into this video immediately, guys. Let's do it. Let's see where it takes us.
Europe's wake-up call. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Okay.
I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war.
And living up to his promise, President Trump sent his diplomatic team to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to meet with a Russian delegation.
Today is the first step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one. And President Trump is committed to bringing an end to this conflict. He wants it to end in a way that's fair. He wants it to end in a way that's sustainable and enduring, not that leads to another conflict in 2 to 3 years.
Now,
yeah, guys, when it comes to what's fair, I'm not sure the Ukraine is going to actually believe whatever is decided upon is actually fair, because it sounds like they're going to end up losing a lot of their country.
Ending this bloodshed, the killing, in a war that had reached a stalemate long ago, that certainly sounds reasonable. And we know it's what Americans want. It's part of the reason they voted for Trump.
Yeah, so we can stop giving them money.
But from the cheerleaders of endless wars, the response was predictable.
As a series of Trump administration officials essentially trying to bully Ukraine into giving up lots of its natural resources.
Ukrainians are very nervous. They are potentially being set up to be carved up between Presidents Trump and President Putin.
Okay, here's the problem. When it comes to the endless kerfuffle, right, it definitely would end up being that, and they'll lose everything. The reality of the situation is that they cannot handle the wild force that Russia is basically throwing at them. So when it comes down to it, what are you actually expecting from us, Ukraine? You want us to handle your battle? That's a little wild, right? We're already giving you entirely too much money, but okay, sure. The problem is, guys, they're going to have to give up a lot of their stuff. Whatever Russia has basically touched, that's going to be theirs. That's theirs. All right. And it kind of is what it is. It's either that or you give them the whole country. Because I'm not sure what exactly they're expecting from us now. We've already thrown billions upon billions of dollars at them, guys.
By the way, this is why we need Elbridge Colby in there at the Pentagon to bolster the America First MAGA agenda. I understand there's some people in the Senate who might be giving him a hard time. He's fantastic and totally on board with what Trump wants to do in Ukraine, vis-a-vis China, and all around the world. But everyone's still holding on to this war. They've lost touch with reality. Some, by the way, were literally reduced to tears after Vance delivered his blunt message.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Okay.
Only the Europeans would clap for tears.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, all I see is a grown man crying on the stage. For what? I'm not sure, but this man's crying on the stage. I don't know what country he represents. I see Munich, but I'm not sure he's specifically speaking from the city. I don't know. Right. But the point is that, guys, what is that supposed to represent on the world stage now? Like, what does that look like to us in America, at least?
All right. The globalist chorus was horrified that an American vice president actually traveled to Europe and represented American interests.
Lecturing them about democracy at a time when there are so many questions about democratic values being observed and upheld in the United States, it seemed particularly inappropriate.
Totally appropriate. The American people do not have a permanent obligation to protect Europe no matter what. As though Europe's some beloved elderly relative and it's our job to pay for the cost of the nursing home. It's absurd. Now, let's just understand what we're talking about. The European Union has a population of around 450 million people. We're about 350. Its GDP is around 17 trillion euros. Last year, the EU's trade surplus in goods with the U.S. was a staggering $235 billion. And And you might not know this, but EU companies own $2.4 trillion worth of assets in this country. And as the UK learned when it tried to leave the EU, the Europeans can play hardball in negotiations when they want to. So the notion that they're unable to defend themselves in a dangerous world, or that they're helpless without the support of the United States, it is ridiculous. And there's another point, one that Vice President Vance made very well. The Europeans, for the most part, do not share our values. Americans overwhelmingly, well, we believe in free speech, not the Europeans.
Guns.
We were with state police as
Oh, no, not this video. Yeah, you're right. Listen, free speech is definitely different in Europe. Keep in mind, guys, I live half the year in Europe, and specifically Spain, and I can definitely tell you free speech is not the same free speech that we afford in the United States of America. I collect guns in the United States of America. I have no guns in Spain. That's not a thing, right? So let's continue.
they raided this apartment in
Free
northwest
speech
Germany.
is not free speech in Europe.
Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Those electronics may have been used to commit a crime. The crime, posting a racist cartoon online. At the exact same time across Germany, more than 50 similar raids played out.
Now, Europeans believe that governments should be able to restrain speech. Despicable speech is the type you have to protect if you believe in free speech, but speech that they consider harmful. We're going to dive more into this later on in the show.
Yeah, guys, the problem with this is that who actually decides what is harmful and what is not, right? I mean, that's really important. And this is why, listen, I'm not a super fan of Laura Ingraham at all. I'm not a fan. But, in this instance, she's actually speaking, completely, the truth in this instance. Guys, it's look, you have to protect the absolute filth. You have to. Because if you don't, unfortunately, let me make sure I'm wording this correctly. You have to protect the people who you don't want to hear. Because the problem is that they're coming from a different opinion state than you are. So tomorrow, literally, your opinion could be as toxic as someone else's, and then all of a sudden, now your words are being criminalized. And it's just listen, it's a cycle. It's a downhill slope of literal nonsense. I do not like the concept of the 3Ks, guys. I don't like it. Weird. Not a fan, right? But I'm also not going to stop them or even honestly attempt to even stop them from speaking their literal filth and garbage, right? I think that's just a society that we are in. In terms of that, we are in fact more free than many other places around the world exclusively due to it, because it's life, I guess, right? But either way. Let's do it.
And Americans, by the way, overwhelmingly believe that voters should have a major say in policymaking, but the Europeans are comfortable with systems that exclude certain parties from the policymaking process, no matter how many votes they get.
Okay.
Americans believe in the right to bear arms, that it's sacrosanct, in fact, not Europeans. And we worry about the economic risks of terrible climate policies. But the Europeans, well, they'll embrace those policies even if it drives them into economic ruin.
Okay.
Now, we have major interests in Asia and are extremely worried, we Americans, about the rise of China. Europeans, they're not worried. They overwhelmingly disapprove of President Trump and his stance vis-a-vis China. But Americans, we're giving him all-time record-high approval ratings. Now, none of this means that we should completely ignore Europe or that we're destined to have serious conflicts with the Europeans. No, not at all. Our differences, by the way, are not new. The Europeans haven't liked any Republican, I don't think, since Eisenhower.
No, yeah, guys, I'll definitely tell you this right now. Our left wing in the United States of America is probably closer to the right wing in Europe, in many places. Guys, specifically Spain, forget about it. For example, guys, Bernie Sanders would be too far right for Spaniards. Okay, just so you understand what exactly she's kind of pointing out here. So why would they like a single Republican or conservative Republican or conservative in general? They wouldn't, right? They would never like them because they are so far left, as a society, all right, they can't even understand what we're talking about because our extreme left is their extreme right.
Remember the wave of no nukes anti-Reagan protests in Germany in the 80s? I do. But of course, the Europeans gave Barack Obama the Nobel Peace Prize, mainly because he wasn't President George W. Bush. And of course, that's their right. But we won our independence from a
Sometimes she just says that.
European country almost 250 years ago, and we're not going to give it up anytime soon. So here's how this is going to go down. We're going to fix things here at home. As part of that effort, we're going to be cutting expenditures in Europe, and that's okay. We're going to have to cut a lot of federal spending to begin turning things around. And the Europeans will be fine. They've defended themselves for thousands of years, and they haven't forgotten how. And sometimes we'll agree with Europe. Sometimes we won't, and that's okay too. For 30 years, a lot of people in D.C. pretended that there was such a thing as an international world order, that we're all part of it, living in harmony together. But they were wrong. The world is now and always has been a dangerous place where people who want to be free must have the willingness and the ability to defend that freedom. And finally, we have a president now who understands that reality, yay, and who's going to look out for our interests. That makes Europe very nervous. Instead, we used to have a president who just does what everyone else wanted. But right. Europe will get used to this new world order, and we'll all be better off as a result. And that's the angle.
That's super valid, guys. That's incredibly valid. Like I've been saying for a long time, a lot of these countries completely take advantage of the fact that our native currency is the U.S. dollar, while their currency is backed off of the U.S. dollar, and so they price gouge us for every single thing you can imagine. Like look at some of these these weight loss things that are happening, guys. GLP-1 type of thing. Look at the prices of these products in their country versus the United States of America. Look at the price of insulin in other countries versus the price of insulin in the United States of America. Like every single company and country basically takes advantage of our citizens. Everyone does. And I don't see how it's a bad thing to finally be like, hey, listen, maybe we should kind of look inward because every single other country on the planet looks inward. They just have gotten so used to us specifically with, throwing things at them, right? And so now what are they doing? They're demonizing us. And while our current left is then demonizing, the White House currently, exclusively due to the fact that they're trying to stop the literal waste of money, giving as much money as we are to other countries for literally no reason. If we can actually give that money to our citizens, that'll be great. If we can get rid of the IRS, I think many people, specifically people who have to pay stupid amount of money yearly to the government, would absolutely feel nice about that, right? So I'm telling you, we have the money to enact a lot of great things in the United States of America, but yet we are basically throwing it away in other nations. And while these nations are not doing nothing for us, zero. What are they doing for us? Nothing? Exactly, guys. But either way, listen, if you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. The more that you like this type of content, the more that I know that you want to see more of this specific type of content, guys. All right? I'll catch you guys later. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.